Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video we're going to be doing a top 10 list of the heroes for pushing AFK stages. Now that we've pushed a lot in the new season, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of the most commonly seen heroes, and I'm going to try to break down the top 10 I've seen and being useful in the various different AFK stages. This can hopefully give you sort of an idea of which heroes you want to build for a current season as well as for future seasons for pushing in the AFK stages. Yeah, because it is pretty important. It allows you to gain a bit more passive income rewards and level up your heroes a bit more, and also even get the talent orbs for the faction talent for this season. Okay, so in the number 10 spot, I mean, there are a lot of commonly used heroes, but I'm just going to name exactly 10 heroes which I feel like are the most popularly used. So number 10 is going to be Scarlita. So Scarlita is not amazing in AFK stages, however, she has two really important things. Number one, she has the shielding at the beginning of the fight, which can protect your front line or whoever is taking the most damage ally on your team. And also, when she comes down, she can have kill potential onto like Igor's, Brutus's, Thorin's, which otherwise are difficult for you to kill. Like, I mean, OD execution would work on Igor, but it doesn't work on Thorin. So Scarlita is good against certain teams, especially enemy Thorin teams that you find on AFK stages. And also, that alone I don't think would be enough to put in the top 10 spot, but she synergizes with Almas, because she has multiple skills that will knock down or knock up enemies, and that is going to be prolonged by Almas if you have Almas at Mythic Plus. And Almas is probably the most popular AFK stage pushing hero, and that is why Scarlita is a good team member to have with the Almas. And yeah, even if, for example, there is no Igor, there is no Thorin, still Scarlita has a way of just killing everyone on the enemy team who, if you don't have a damage dealer in your team lineup. So overall, Scarlita is pretty good for AFK stages, but that is not the area she shines, but she does pretty well. So she's gonna get the number 10 spot. And coming in at the number 9 spot is Carolina. So Carolina is a really popular used hero in AFK stage pushing, especially in the Iron Almas control team, because she gets synergy if you're controlling the enemies. It will cause snowballs to be launched at the controlled enemies. Also, at her Supreme Plus, her snowballs will afflict the enemies with frostbite, which will reduce their haste. So it's a really powerful debuff, prevents them from casting, the enemies casting their ultimates, casting their skills. That can make the difference between you winning a stage or not. And then of course she has a freeze with her ultimate. So overall, and her snowballs will cause the opponent to take more magical damage by reducing magical defense. So all of these combined basically makes her one of the perfect team members, along with the Iron, Arden, Almas type lockdown magic damage oriented team. So she's a really good option for AFK stages. She's been one of the most popular, much more popular in this season compared to the previous season. And yeah, so overall a great hero for AFK stages. Coming in at number 8 is Rowan. So Rowan also does really well. He does well in two different teams. He does well in the Almas Iron control team, because he can give everyone on the team bonus energy and keep casting it throughout the fight to keep locking down the opponents with Arden's roots, with Carolina's freezes, with Almas knockup, and then Iron, of course, ultimate and displacement. So this is what Rowan really shines in. Also, he's good in the Frester sort of teams, tanky teams, where you need the burst of healing with the potions, giving energy to allow Coco to ultimate before the enemy can kill you. So he's a really good support for AFK stages, one of the top tier ones. I put him in the number 8 slot because there are a lot of top tier heroes basically, and really in this top 10 list, into certain enemies you're facing, Rowan could be one of the best options, but then there could also be in other teams, the other heroes are better. So I'm just kind of take the ordering of the list with maybe a grain of salt. All of these heroes are amazing for AFK stages, but I just kind of tried to order it based on how dominant I think these heroes are. And yeah, so Rowan, very good hero and perfect for the Iron Almas control team or getting Coco to ultimate before the opponent. And coming in at the number 7 spot is going to be, like we just mentioned, one of Rowan's friends, which is Coco. Coco is really good for AFK stages because if you can cast your ultimate before any of your team has died, and you pair it up with like a high power healer like Smokey, then basically your team has stabilized. You have the damage reduction, you have the healing, and the opponents are not going to kill you for that duration. Then when her ultimate ends, if she's at Mythic Plus, she'll give the shielding to your team, and you'll continue healing and cleaning up the opponent team. So Coco is really good for a lot of AFK stages where you need that damage reduction in order to survive. And the faster she can cast her ultimate, the better chances you have of clearing that AFK stage. So overall, Coco is a great hero to be running in AFK stages and is on the number 8 spot for the list. Moving on to someone who we just mentioned, which is your sustain healer, Smokey. Smokey is great. He gives some of the most healing in the game of any hero. He gives attack and haste buff to increase your damage, but also on his blue aura, if he's at his Mythic Plus, he begins dealing a lot of damage to the opponents. And in a lot of higher level AFK stages, the way that you're going to kill them is through Smokey's blue aura damage, because the damage is so high, and also you need to run a really tanky team in order to survive, and Smokey can just heal up that tanky team, and as soon as he can get his blue aura, you try to kill all of the opponents. Smokey, even in last season, for the high AFK stages, was one of the top tier choices, and currently right now, even at kind of the lower stages we're at, he's still a great option in a lot of different teams. He can work in the Almas team, he can work in a Freya team with Coco. Overall, really good hero, and definitely a hero you'll want to build for AFK stages. Coming in at number 5, we have Odie. Now, I don't know if I should have positioned Odie this high up. Odie overall is a very strong option for AFK stages because of his 1-by-1 eliminating enemies. If you have a tanky team, again, he does well with Coco, Smokey, and a frontline tank like Freya, Brutus, something like that. Basically buying your team enough time for Odie to eliminate enemies 1-by-1. He's very good against certain enemies who cannot normally be killed, like they need the execution, for example Igor, and even apart from Igor, he is good in a lot of different teams. As long as Odie can survive for long enough, he will probably be able to work down all of the enemy heroes on the map, and that is why he has this spot over here. And yeah, and especially also he can be good even in the Almas Iron team, and you can put him on the Wilder Talent buff tile to gain even bonus attack speed, and he's even a bit stronger from that. And of course, if the enemy has any really important crowd controller that you want to eliminate at the beginning of the match, like a Cisia, for example, you can manually select who Odie is targeting in the AFK stage and eliminate that hero. So he is the number 5 spot for AFK stages. Number 4 spot, another A-level hero, but this time of the Wilder faction. So we talked about Arden already, because Arden goes hand in hand with Iron. Iron will, at the beginning of the fight, immobilize the enemies, and that is going to charge up the energy of Arden to allow him to cast his ultimate. Arden will deal damage with his ultimate, but also apply entangling roots on the opponents, and the entangling roots is for a long duration, up to 3-second duration if you have his plus 10 exclusive equipment at Mythic Plus. And so Arden is going to be a really powerful hero to run and control lockdown teams. Also, the damage that he deals is really high. He can be your sole form of damage on your team and try to eliminate the opponents, especially along with Star Shard spell. A lot of people use that, but basically he's just the perfect team member to have with Iron, because and even regardless of his ultimate, he has other ways of placing entangling roots, entangling vines with his skill and ability over here, making them unable to move or act while dealing damage. And so this is basically the thing. He has a lot of crowd control in his kit, along with Iron and Almas. Basically, you can almost fully lock down enemy teams, and then also he gains the energy charging whenever a non-summon enemy is controlled, and this counts for all enemies on the field, and so it adds up very quickly. He can keep casting his ultimate. At the Mythic Plus, Arden will cast Entangling Vines on all enemies under the Dark Cloud once after casting his ultimate. So the faster he can charge up, the more crowd control he gets, and the more damage he gets. Okay, moving on to number 3, we have Iron. Iron is, again, top tier hero for AFK stage pushing. You again would need his Mythic Plus so that he can ultimate at the beginning of the match, and then that is going to immobilize enemies for up to 6 seconds if you have his plus 10 exclusive equipment upgrade. And along with Almas, just has so much lockdown because Almas is going to also root enemies who are displaced or knocked up, knocked down, and the displacement of the Verdant Cyclone of Iron's ultimate does count for that. And then on top of that, he has a shield, so he's pretty tanky. He has some decent damage output, and he has, at his Supreme Plus, reduction of magical defense onto the opponents who are immobilized, increasing the damage from Carolina, Arden, all of your magical sources on your team that you would be running. He's the perfect partner for Almas. If Iron did not exist, Almas probably would not be nearly as strong. Because right from the beginning of the match, you get the immobilization of Iron. Almas is going to elongate that with Almas's Mythic Plus, and then you just begin channeling all the crowd control, Arden Ultimate, and all of that. Okay, now coming in at the number 2 spot is Friesto. Yes. Friesto honestly has not been seen in as many AFK stages as, for example, the previous season, but still he is a top tier option. One thing to keep in mind for him though, you need to have him as Supreme Plus for maximum effect, because the shield that he will get at his Supreme Plus is really essential for high deficit AFK stage pushing, because you need to have that initial tankiness to take the burst of damage from the opponents at the beginning of the match. And the best allies for Friesto are Coco, Smokey, maybe Rowan. Basically, you want to get your Coco damage reduction off, Smokey healing, and then Friesto just needs to tank the front line until all of that can happen. Friesto also has Crimson Contract to boost the energy gain of, for example, Coco in the back or Smokey, whoever you may need. And so, overall, Friesto is one of the best heroes for AFK stage pushing. He also does well with Odie in that team. For example, Odie, Coco, Smokey, Rowan. Friesto is a really commonly used team. And there are certain AFK stages which cannot be cleared with the Ultimus team, or like you would have to like level up 10, 20 levels higher to clear with the Ultimus team. And the Friesto team is just the best choice. So because of that, there are certain roadblocks you get to if you don't have Friesto. And then either you need to use your synergy battle, or wait until you level up higher, 10-20 levels higher past that stage. So that is why Friesto is really a core hero you want to eventually build for AFK stages, but Supreme Plus is needed. I thought he could work at Mythic Plus. I've tried him a lot at Mythic Plus, but it just is not effective. And I'm at a big disadvantage compared to people who are running Supreme Plus. I have to like level up at least 20 levels higher than them in order to try and clear that stage with the same formation. So yeah, Friesto, he has a lot of tankiness capability and 2 heroes for the price of 1, but they need to survive, and for that, the Supreme Plus effect is very important. For AFK stages specifically. For other areas of the game like Dream Realm, it isn't as important, but for AFK stages specifically where they're bursting you, you need to have that. Okay, and as you have probably predicted, the number 1 spot belongs to Almas. Almas is the king of AFK stages. If you look at all the AFK stages like recommended replays, Almas is probably a part of 80% of them. There are a few stages, few floors where Friesto is the best option, but then it goes back to Almas. So Almas, because of his Mythic Plus ability, honestly, it is almost all his Mythic Plus ability, Prowling Roots, increase the knockdown duration by 2 seconds. And this is whenever a target is knocked down, knocked up, or affected by displacement effects. So it will count Iron's immobilization, which is a displacement effect, grouping up the enemies. It will count with things like Scarlita, like we talked about knockdowns. It will count with heroes like Temesia, who has knockdowns in her kit. And it will count with himself as well. His ultimate, if you look at this, no attacks become range active, deals knocking the target and adjacent enemies into the air. That is also going to activate his Prowling Roots. So you can lock down opponents and his Supreme Plus. We have to not forget to mention this. So my Almas is Supreme right now. I don't have the Supreme Plus ability. And that has made my life much harder pushing with the same Almas teams that other people have been running, because I have to I do not have a key part of his kit. So in his Supreme Plus, Almas knocks back adjacent enemies by 1 tile when the shield granted by Verdant Barrier breaks or vanishes. So he goes up into the front, his shield will be on himself, and then when it breaks, and it's bound to break, if you've already grouped up all the enemies around Almas with the Iron, they're almost all adjacent enemies, and then you get this free knockback when the shield breaks, and then he gets to increase the knockdown duration by 2 seconds, so it's an extra just bit of crowd control just by having a Supreme Plus. So it's not really even about the stats, it's about this extra bit of crowd control that he can get, and this makes a big difference. So yeah, that is important as well. So his Supreme Plus, his ultimate, these are the knock up and knockdowns that he has, and then of course his Mythic Plus, which is one of the most impactful Mythic Plus skills in the game. And it just makes other crowd control teams a lot stronger. So anyway guys, that is going to be it for our top 10 list of heroes for AFK stage pushing. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and this can hopefully give you a priority of which heroes to work on and build towards. If you want to be pushing like as far as possible on AFK stages, given your level, and like you want that, it's really important to you, you need to get Freya to Supreme Plus, you need to get Almas to Supreme Plus. Definitely, I think Almas is a bigger priority, and he's easier to get to Supreme Plus because he's not a Celestial Hypogean, but eventually you'll want to have both, because there are some stages where you'll want to use a Freya team, some stages for Almas team, and then on top of that, then you have to build all the other heroes we mentioned, who synergize with these two key heroes. But anyway guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video, and until then, everyone, peace out for now, and thank you for watching.